Hello, American football fans, and welcome to NFL UK Ops Live. I'm delighted to be joined by Tyler Lamb, who is the Director of Personnel for Stadium Rant and also a huge Patriots fan. How are you doing today, Tyler?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm really, really excited to be on this show with you. Excited for the opportunity to come show you kind of what I know about the NFL and, what you know about the NFL. It's really cool to get to talk to you and see your perspective as well. So I'm happy to be here.
No, thank you so much. And so, question we always like to start with is, how did your NFL American football sort of journey begin? So, how did you become a Patriots fan? How did you find the love of American football?
So growing up in Massachusetts, like born and raised, like it's kind of there's never really been anything else. You know what I mean? It's kind of just always been a thing where you're just okay. I'm a Red Sox fan. I'm a Bruins fan. I'm a Celtics fan. I'm a Patriots fan. That's what it is, and that's what's staying. No matter how they do, or how well they do, or how poorly they do. That's who I am, and it just so happens that I was lucky enough to be born in an era that we were extremely successful in, and so it started with being around here. Then they started winning, and then they started winning at like a insane percent, and just kind of all felt like that. One thing that like really like ingrained football and the Pats to me though, I went to school in Florida for a little bit, so I was like away from home and kind of used sports to connect back to my hometown and my home state. And that was the year of the Falcons Super Bowl. And I just remember being so mad. People were like pointing right in my face, being like laughing, like, oh my God, this is what you guys are now. Like the times like changed, the tables turn. Oh my God. And like I was so mad at halftime. Going into the fourth quarter too. They turned it around, they won that game, and in the end, I was the one pointing in their face. I mean, probably was a little disrespectful, but like, hey, a lot of emotions on Super Bowl night. You can't blame me. So that was the one that really like cemented everything and like why I'm doing this and why I have an interest in writing about them, the NFL, sports in general. So
Excellent. And so, talking about obviously what you do in your role now, so can you tell me about what Stadium Rant is and what sort of role you have with Stadium Rant?
yeah, absolutely. So our motto at Stadium Rant is we are unapologetically fearless with our coverage. So we want to create like a brand new sports media company by fans for fans, trying to do new things to encouraging like engagement through all social media platforms and just really trying to build a network of people who want a chance to talk about their team but never thought they'd get a chance to talk about their team really. So that's in our essence who we are. It started with a group of Chiefs fans who just wanted to really get their thoughts out about the Chiefs, and from there it grew to another site and another site and another site, and then they realized there was potential there, and it grew to all 32 team sites in the NFL. We're working on a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Our front page consists of all types of sports where our featured writers, that's where they write basically. Like those are basically the people who want to write full time and can like really want to try and support themselves like through writing. That's basically their first step, and that's on our front page. And then our team sites are on fanrant.com, and that's where basically all of the beginning writers and like people who just kind of want to dip their toe into stuff. That's where you can be a contributing writer for your team. If you like it, who knows? Possibilities are endless. I mean, I started at the company when it was Border Fuel back, I think it was the 27th of March. It's actually my birthday. So 6 months ago. And I started as a managing editor. I moved up to lead, recruitment lead. Then I moved up to head of personnel. Now I'm director of personnel. So there's plenty of growth within the company. As long as you work hard and you kind of show you want to be here, that's really what we're looking for: dedication and passion for your team, for the sport, and getting news out to people, really.
And so, if somebody wanted to join, how would they go about doing that?
You would just go on to stadiumrantjobs.com, or you could DM me at lamb4752, and I can direct you to there. We can talk about the role. My DMs are pretty much always open. My phone basically burns on fire all day. Like, it's just constantly going off. So please don't hesitate to hit me up to come join. We want people to come join. We want to share our message with them. They can share what their thoughts with us, and then we can collectively share them together to everybody, basically.
Fantastic. So if anybody is interested in getting involved for their team, then make sure that you do contact Tyler. I know he obviously is available on Twitter as well, so just make sure that you do that. So let's talk Patriots then. Okay. So Patriots, we've just found out not that so long ago that Mac is officially out for the game on Sunday. So what's your opinion on that, and who is going to be QB1 on Sunday?
My opinion on Mac is, thank God he's not going to play. Nobody questions his toughness here. We saw, I mean, even in that Dallas game last year, Randy Gregory almost took his head off on a blindside hit, and he got right back up and kept playing. So for him to have the reaction that he did during the game, there was obviously something wrong. We don't want to rush our future foundational quarterback back for a team that we aren't sure that really can protect either one of his side, like his ends, like on the outside. So happy Mac's not going to play. Brian Hoyer's probably going to get the start. I'm really not thrilled about their passing game this week, but Green Bay, they are kind of a run funnel defense, and you can score on them if you do run successfully. So I'm really going to want to see this Bill Belichick mean mugging, like, pit bull running back, like Damian Harris from Andre Stevenson. They better both have 80 to 100 yards and catching balls out of the backfield. They both have to come to play. The offensive line has to come to play. And I mean, like I said, I'm not so sure about tackles, but running up the middle, that's something we can do well. Andrews, Cole Strange, Michael Onwenu, they've all played really well during this stretch, at least through 3 games. So I'm hoping they keep doing that.
I think the biggest concern is going to be the fact that the Packers are likely to completely stack the box and dare the Patriots to throw the ball now. So it's, how do the Patriots then attack that sort of defense that the Packers are probably going to put in place?
I would try and do it with hitting the flats and trying to run screen plays and misdirection. And I hate to say it, but like, it's all the Josh McDaniels stuff that used to frustrate me a little bit towards the end. But like, that's the sort of stuff, like motions, drag routes, zig routes, trying to hit the edges of the field when somebody kind of like tries to cheat on the inside if they're thinking run. I would throw a little RPO into that too. That way, I know that's not Brian Hoyer's like greatest skill set, but they can keep people guessing like that. They don't have to throw the deep ball, but like, people still have to prepare for the pass in that situation. But I would like to say with confidence, like Hunter Henry or like, you know, Kendrick Bourne could like beat man coverage in the short area, but like, they're not playing right now. So, or not producing. And it's just, very frustrating. So,
and so you talked about Josh McDaniels, who's obviously now with the Raiders. What's your opinion on the current offensive coaching situation?
It's tough, man. I was one of the people who was kind of ready to move on from McDaniels, but like I wasn't ready to move on from McDaniels and not have a succession plan or not have somebody like that I've pegged, if it was me, that I've pegged ready to like come up. And I guess he has, and it just so happens to be Matt Patricia, and that's just like the worst candidate for the role. He alienates his best players. He holds grudges, and both of those things hurt the team. He held a grudge in the Eagles game. To this day in the Eagles Super Bowl, he's the reason Malcolm Butler didn't play. They got into an argument that week, and Belichick made an example of Malcolm Butler to I don't know, further Matt Patricia's status. Then Matt Patricia goes to the Lions, and there's been multiple reports from numerous players, beat writers, coaches, former staff members. List goes on. You could probably write a book of people who complained about him. But the first game, or the first practice, he showed up. He went into the locker room and basically told the Lions, all their veteran players who went to the playoffs the year before, that they hadn't won shit. Like, they hadn't won anything. They're nothing. They're basically like, he knows everything. He's won 4 Super Bowls, and he, like, to this day, he claims the Malcolm Butler play on the what's it called, in the end zone in the Seattle game. That was because of him. That was probably why they got into a beef, to be honest. If you want a little like my side thought there, but it's happening now with Kendrick Bourne. We tried to install the 49ers zone running scheme, and Kendrick Bourne was on the 49ers, and he was like, "Hey, Matt, I don't think this is how this is supposed to look." And Matt had a problem with that, and now he's not getting playing time, and little Jordan Humphrey is getting playing time, and that's somebody who I liked in like a substitution role when people are real tired and you're like, trying to switch things up. Not a 53 out of 60 snap player. He's basically doing the N'Keal Harry role when we were all just like, why is he on the field? And it stinks. I like little Jordan Humphrey, but like now he's in a role that's just like marginal, and like that's what Matt Patricia thinks is going to win, and it's just not like that anymore, man. You need playmakers. Kendrick Bourne's an energetic playmaker. He's just not on the field, so feels like fighting with one hand tied behind your back. You know what I mean? So, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I know obviously the situation with Kendrick Bourne, and he only came into the game in the first game, in the fourth quarter, wasn't it? And then instantly caught the longest pass that Mac Jones threw. He needs to be out there. He needs his playmakers out there. And last season, he was one of his go-to guys. With Myers, Kendrick Bourne was somebody that Mac was comfortable throwing the ball to. It's been good to see, obviously, Aguilar step up this season. However, he obviously had the fumble in the last game that probably cost them the game. Which was obviously disappointing, which brings on to talking about how you've seen the Patriots this season. What's your opinions on how they've looked overall?
Not like a Patriots team, to be honest, man. They're making uncharacteristic like decision making with play calling. So one thing that really frustrates me that they do is they'll call a timeout when they can't figure out their offense, and then after the timeout they'll get a false start penalty or delay a game, or they'll come out and run a play that just doesn't make any sense, and that's horrible. Their red zone percentage hasn't been great because they've been moving the ball up and down the field. They have, I think it's 11 turnovers through 3 games. That's incredible for a Bill Belichick coach team. Like, if this was 05, every single one of those players probably would have gotten traded or cut. Like, or just wouldn't be playing. Like it's very frustrating. Then you have guys like Miles Bryant on the defense, who keeps muffing punts and getting beat on almost every route that he gets thrown on, and not making like he's basically just out there to be like the weak link. When we used 3rd and 4th round draft picks to get cornerbacks, we put Terrence Mitchell onto the practice squad. He got signed by the I'm forgetting who signed him. Somebody signed him, and he's not with us anymore. So now he's like relying on Miles Bryant instead of either, Jabril Peppers or Adrian Phillips, Devin McCourty. I know Kyle Duggar's kind of been hurt, but like put Sean Wade out there. Like it's kind of like the Kendrick Bourne has made less mistakes than Miles Bryant, and Miles Bryant is playing like almost like 80% of snaps, and Kendrick Bourne's playing like 22. How does that work? Can you explain that to me?
No,
I can't explain it to myself, so it's very frustrating. Like,
yeah, I mean, a big question going into the season was obviously about the Patriots secondary. Now, obviously, they lost J.C. Jackson. They tried to bring Malcolm Butler back, and that obviously didn't work out either. They've had injuries. It's probably the weakest part of the defense. They're strong at safety. With Devin McCourty, Duggar, Adrian Phillips playing sort of hybrid role as well. They've got people at safety, but that cornerbacks, and when you're having to go up against, your Tyreek Hills, Waddle, Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, you've got to play those guys twice, and it's going to be tough all season. I think, to be fair, in the first couple of weeks against the Dolphins, they could and should have won that game. They missed.
They could have beat the Ravens too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they missed assignment by Trent Brown on the line that got the sack fumble. The sack fumble touchdown. Then you obviously have the 4th and 7, which 99 times out of 100, there's no way they're converting that and scoring a touchdown, but they did. Then you've got obviously the Steelers game that they just about pulled through. And the Ravens game, they were well in it in a game where you'd expect the Patriots to fall away and not be able to keep up with a powerhouse team on offense like the Ravens, and they were well within it. And as I said, without the Aguilar fumble, they were in prime position to go on and win that game. So they've been there and thereabouts, and they've been very competitive. And even though they're 1-2, they could have very easily found themselves at 3-0 and had other teams looking at them like, oh, this is not what we expected, but they're likely now to find themselves 1-3. So it's always a game of inches, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's also a game of personnel, and just to touch on that 4th and 7 Waddle play, for some reason we have Kyle Duggar out and trying to play free safety, and Devin McCourty's like matched up 1-on-1 with the running back, trying to like catch that either slot in route or that wheel route. And that's not Kyle Duggar's game. You know what I mean? Like, why isn't Devin McCourty out there like directing traffic? I get it's a 4th and 7 and you're like trying to do something different, but like that's just I feel like that's Steve Belichick trying to like, outthink himself, and just by doing that, Kyle Duggar misread the play. He was like you said, it's a game of inches. He was about an inch short and a second late, and that's all Jalen Waddle needed to blow by all 3 of them for a touchdown. And tough game. Again, the Pats had 4 turnovers in the Ravens game. I thought they played fantastic defense in the first half, even like halfway into the third. But once the Ravens made the adjustments and went to the heavy sets, they started it was kind of clear actually that the Pats did what they wanted this offseason. on defense. They got faster. They got more athletic on defense because they were hanging with Lamar. They were containing him for the most part. I mean, again, you had Miles Bryant on Mark Andrews a couple of times, and that was sad. So very tough. Kyle Duggar didn't play in the game. I know that. But he definitely would have helped. I don't know if it would have been a true game changer with 4 interceptions, because you give Lamar and the Ravens that many opportunities to score, you're not going to really help. You're not going to put yourself in a position to win. So, like you said, just it's fundamental Belichick type things that like aren't happening anymore. That scare me. It's not even I like the roster. I think the roster, like, it showed that it can hang with the top team. Like Devontae Parker, 156 yards. I know they were picking on their third or fourth cornerback, but we were moving the ball. We were running the ball. Ramondre Stevenson had, I think, 80 yards on the ground and like 30 through the air. Damian Harris, I think, 30, 40 yards. I mean, we haven't even gotten the tight ends involved. Like, Kendrick Bourne's not playing that much. Like, there are parts in this offense that do show promise, but right now it's just not the right person at the helm maneuvering everything into the right spot. So,
what do you expect from Sunday's game? Obviously, the Packers always a tough team, going to Lambeau Field as well, and they've just knocked off the Buccaneers. Can you see any other outcome other than a Packers win?
Yes, it's very, very unlikely if Brian Hoyer, like if Mac was starting, I would feel pretty good. Honestly, I'd feel pretty good about this game. But Brian Hoyer is starting, and that does not make me feel very good. But at least on defense, I think we can play press man and kind of stack, do exactly what the Packers are going to do with us. You know what I mean? They have Aaron Rodgers. I understand that. It's much different than Brian Hoyer, but they're in a similar sort of flux situation with their wide receivers and pass catchers. They have 2 very talented running backs, a good offensive line. They want to run the ball. So they're both. I think you're going to see a lot of press man and a lot of stuffing the box, and like whoever wins the line of scrimmage in this game is going to win the game. And we have a better shot this week than I think that we would. I mean, if Devontae Adams is still on this team, I'd give us no shot, because right now, as it stands, the only receiver on that team that really scares me in a one-on-one matchup right now is Allen Lazard, and that's not because of his speed. That's more because he's 6'5", and we don't really have a cornerback that's playable over 6'1", I believe. So that scares me a little bit. I mean, with the way Aaron Rodgers can, moonshot lob place balls over people's head, and So I'll probably predict a 24-17 Packers win, but it's going to be tight. It's going to be like one of those games that's just kind of like the KC game, man. Like, we're in it, but like, it's right there. We can't catch it. Right there. It's right there. We can't get it. That's kind of how I feel it's going to go.
So if the Patriots are to win this game, who are the key players that's going to lead them to victory this weekend?
I would say Matt Judon has 2 sacks, a forced fumble, and one of maybe like Mac Wilson or Kyle Duggar picks up that fumble and scores a touchdown. Then Ramondre Stevenson is probably going to have like 100 yards on the ground, or 70 yards on the ground, and like 80 yards receiving on little like screen routes, wheel routes, man beating routes, essentially, especially if they're going to stack the box. And if you run a split set and you stack the box, you kind of run a play action with Damian Harris, and you have Ramondre break out onto a wheel route. Typically, if they're running a man blitz, the linebacker is going to have to stunt inside a little bit. That should give Stevenson enough time to break out on the wheel route. If they're playing true man, nobody should be out there. that should be easy chunk plays until they stop playing man coverage. And if they start playing zone, they're a little bit susceptible to more play action stuff and just more areas for Hoyer to kind of have space to throw the ball, because we really don't want him throwing into tight coverage. We don't want him making a lot of tough decisions. It's going to be really unfortunately, the offense has been really simple, this season, and there hasn't been a lot of personnel changing and offensive switching on on personnel. Like, you see the same set out there a lot, and with the number of skill players that we have, I don't see how that's very helpful, and it's almost too simple. You want to keep it simple for Brian Hoyer, but it's you can't keep it too simple that the defense can just see what you're doing. The Packers don't have a great defensive coordinator. I actually talked to one of the Packers, the managing editor of the Packers site for Stadium Rant, Cheesehead Checkdown. It's Zachary Simmons. He said that he was the defensive coordinator of the 0-16 Lions. So that's not a great resume. And he was basically we have a top 5 defense and talent, but with his play calling, it's a top 15 defense. And that's kind of maybe not top 5, but maybe top 10. That's kind of how I feel about the Patriots offense. It's we have all the players that we need. We just don't have the dude to call the plays to make them really, really pop right now.
So do you think, as Matt Patricia got enough in him to lead them to be creative enough on offense this season to actually get enough wins and to mix it up enough when Mac is back, to trust him enough to throw the ball deeper and not have to make as many simple or repetitive plays as we've seen so far? So
with that, I think they started to give Mac the keys a little bit more to the offense, right? And with that, though, Matt Patricia's offense primarily runs on, you see a dude one-on-one, throw it in the air, chuck it up. That's great for some plays in certain situations, but every time they're taking a shot, and every time I see that, that's sort of kind of what they're doing. And that's leading to some of these interceptions, because that's all right. So there was this one coach for flag football where I used to play, and he'd come into the huddle and he'd draw up a play, and we'd have 5 people wide, but only one dude was running a route. And it's the play's designed to get this dude the ball. And it's okay, well, what if I literally asked him when I was in 5th grade, I was well, what if that doesn't work? And he just looked at me and was well, then throw the ball away. And I was that's kind of so when we see man coverage one-on-one on the outside, that's what Matt Patricia calls, and that's what Mac needs to throw. And that's kind of where they're restricting him, but also kind of trying to show that they're unleashing him. And that's the problem. You want to take a deep throw, that's great. Don't do it every single time you have man coverage. And it's situational too. A lot of these times are happening on 3rd and 3. You know what I mean? And it's well, why didn't you ran the ball twice? You're in 3rd and 3. You could run the ball one more time, maybe, if you're gonna go for a big deep play like that. Go for it on 2nd down. Just it's kind of the right plays. It's not the right sequence and not the right personnel. If that makes any sense. They're aggressive enough to sometimes be exciting, but not smart enough with the aggression to do anything of substance. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, he seems to have been told, if you've got Devontae Parker one-on-one, toss the ball up, because as you've already said, at least 3 interceptions have come from that. Obviously the one in the first game against the Dolphins, when the Patriots got the ball right to start, driving down the field. There was definite clear holding on that play, without a doubt.
Underthrown ball too. So yeah. It's like it's not all on Patricia, but like it's a second-year quarterback. You're not putting him in a situation to succeed. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, and obviously we saw it again on Sunday. He just lofted the ball up into the end zone, and just obviously left points out there, didn't he? And that it's cost him. I mean, it'd be interesting to see obviously the game plan they've got with Hoyer in there and how much they're going to trust him to throw the ball this weekend, because as we've said before, that Brian Hoyer has been an excellent backup quarterback where he's not had to see the field too much, coming on for relieving duties at the end of games when the game's done. But he's 11-0 in his 0-11. Sorry, he's lost his last 11. I wish he was 11-0.
I wish he was 11-0 too, buddy.
he's 0-11 in his last 11 starts. So, is there any way that can actually break this weekend? I just can't see it myself.
Man, we're gonna need a big defensive touchdown, maybe even like a kick return as well as a defensive touchdown, and then maybe 2 touchdowns from the running backs off like purely dink and dunk, like dressed up hoopla type offensive play calling. And like I don't trust Matt Patricia as far as I can throw him to call that type of game plan. Honestly, I wish that Nick Caley, the tight ends coach, was the play caller. He's just like, I don't know. He just seems like that was the Josh McDaniels like now. You know what I mean? Because Josh McDaniels was like, I think he was a wide receiver coach, and then he was a quarterback coach. Then he moved up to offensive coordinator for Bill, and then I don't think he's the best head coach, but like if the Raiders lose again, don't sleep on the Josh McDaniels getting fired. And hey, he might have already called Bill. He might have already called Bill and been like, this was a mistake. So I don't know. That would make me feel a whole lot better, even though I said I wanted him gone a long time ago. But the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And like I'm sort of realizing that when he picked Matt Patricia, he was just like, all right, we're just gonna set this grass right on fire. So take a flamethrower right to it. See, watch it burn. And
what we haven't seen too much, or I don't think we've seen one yet, as we haven't seen any real trick plays or trickery. Obviously you said about creativity as well. Maybe this is the weekend to do something like that. You've got Kendrick Bourne that can throw a ball. Myers can throw a ball. You've got players out there that can do those things. End arounds. You've got speed players now. So maybe this weekend we might see 2 or 3 chucked in there just to keep obviously the Packers on the toes, and that extra little bit might just get them over the line.
Yeah, they'll go to Johnny Smith, and it'll be really frustrating to watch. Don't worry. It's gonna be. I want to say it's going to be a good game. I think the defense is going to hold. Like it's going to be a close game till the third quarter, and then the Packers will probably be leading 14-7, and the Packers are going to score 17 straight points, and then we'll kick a field goal in like the middle of the fourth quarter, have a chance to stop them. Aaron Rodgers ices the clock. That's kind of the game, maybe. Like that's kind of my prediction of how it's going to go. So hopefully it'll be entertaining at least until the end. We might pull one out if we get really lucky, but it's the regular season. It's Aaron Rodgers, and he's kind of that dude during this time.
Yeah, and so looking further on in the season, then, so what realistic estimate do you have for the Patriots' record this season? Can you see them making the playoffs as a wild card?
It's tough, man, without knowing the full extent of the timeline for Mac. If it's going to be 4 weeks, I think they very well could go like 1-3 over this stretch, in addition to being 1-2. So that's what, 2-5. You might be 4th in the division at that point. Mac comes back. He's probably not fully healthy. You probably lose 2 more games after that. 2-7 there. once he kind of gets back to it, the end of the schedule is tough. I think you kind of win a couple of games, maybe 3, 4. Like, I mean, it's going to be like a 7-9, maybe a 7-9 season. And if Mac's out 8 weeks, we're looking at like a top 8 pick, man. I don't see Brian Hoyer or Bailey Zappi really like, taking us anywhere, not in this division, in this conference with all the skill and the talent now.
So it's all on Mac's injury then, really, is you're saying?
Yeah, it was hard for me to get to 10-7 with Mac. Without Mac, like it's hard for me to like get to 7-9. So like that's me being a Pats fan my entire life, trying to rationalize these games, like a little biased towards it, but like I'm trying to look like I don't feel great playing the Lions next week if we don't have Mac. The Lions score a lot of points. Like they do it in a lot of different ways, and I mean Aiden Hutchinson's probably would probably blow through Isaiah Wynn. So I'm not thrilled about that either. So it doesn't look great, but like there's a lot of talent on the team. The future is bright. That's why I don't want Mac to rush back, because I do think that he showed promise, and I think that he can take steps forward to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback when you have the right tools around him.
So you're a Mac believer then. So do you believe then that Mac is the quarterback of the Patriots for the next 10 plus years?
If he can stay healthy and, we can provide a stable organization and personnel around him, then yeah. But if this offseason has been any sort of inclination for the direction of how the organizational side is going to work, I don't feel fantastic. But like I do believe in Mac, and like if you do the right things and surround your quarterback with weapons and protection and offensive minds and talent and do those things, you don't have to have an elite athlete or extreme arm to win. So that's my thought.
And how did you feel about you probably must have heard of the sort of rumor that was created about Bill Belichick fancying Lamar Jackson if they could make the money work, and signing him to a big money contract, a quite un-Belichickian move, really, and putting all his money in one player. But how would you feel about that if they tried to make that move next season?
It would, I mean, like I said, you kind of set me up for this. It's tough because I just said I'm a Mac believer, but like, damn, you're throwing an MVP out in my face now. Like that's tough. Like that makes it so, I have all these organizational issues. That doesn't matter as much, and you don't have to have the very best players around him. Like it changes a lot of dynamics. If that were to happen, I wouldn't hate it. I don't think it's going to happen because Belichick wouldn't pay Tom Brady. Like I don't see him paying Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson's going to want like big money, like
at least 251 million.
yeah. He should be paid as much as at least Aaron Rodgers, like right now, or Kyler Murray, or and Deshaun Watson. Like what, just it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Kirk Cousins broke the quarterback market, by the way. Thank him and the Vikings. They just started giving that dude like $35 million guaranteed, like for hey, here you go. Can't play in primetime games. You do fantastic in 1:00 regular season games, but as soon as those lights turn on, man, wow, does it get sketchy. That dude's $35 million. Now I think it might be 40. It might be 40 now with how they had to restructure all the cap hits because they're in such a problematic area for giving him so much money.
And that just proves how valuable Tom Brady was, and how unselfish that he was to say, right, I'll take the lower contract, the lower money, but just make sure you build the team around me. I want a strong defense. I want weapons. and knowing it worked out for them. Just obviously on Tom Brady, how do you feel about his unretirement and coming back?
Oh, that was a chess move to get Bruce Arians fired.
Yeah.
All right, so I actually had somebody. I wrote an article the other day, and it was just like breaking news: growing tension between Mac Jones and Patriots, because Mac didn't want to get the surgery. Really, the Patriots want him to get the surgery, and like that, with all of the things we've kind of talked about here today as well in the off season, the way the season's gone, how things are going around him, he's probably a little frustrated. Like, and it's not like he was like, oh, be quiet. He said some other things besides be quiet. And, he was very accusatory, but he was basically like, you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, I don't have to really like know. I can like see it on the field when Mac's throwing tablets. To connect this to the Brady story, he commented, he was like, oh, so that means Brady doesn't enjoy his coaches? And I was like, no, dude, he got one of them fired. Like, don't you remember that? And he was like, oh, backed into a corner, didn't really know what to say after that. It's like, when quarterbacks show their visible frustration on the sideline like that, there's definitely an issue. Like it might just be something they'll brush off, but like in that moment, like right there, like they're mad, they're upset, like somebody did something to, mess up, and like that's kind of how I feel about the unretirement thing. Like he did that last year. Like Brady was throwing tablets, being mad. They didn't win the Super Bowl. They lost. Like he thought it was Bruce Arians' fault. So he retired. He spent some time with his family. Realized that wasn't really probably what he wanted to do anymore because he still had it. Then he was like, I'll come back, Tampa. You got to fire Arians.
And has he got one more run in him? Do you see the Buccaneers as Super Bowl contenders this season?
Excuse me. If they get their offensive line figured out, yeah, and maybe get healthy. That's the thing that the offense needs to do. They need Godwin. They need Evans. If they get Julio back, that's fine. I didn't think that he'd make a huge impact anyway. Like his hamstring's cooked. Like he'll play 30 snaps and that's it. It's aggravated. Unfortunate. One of the most dominant wide receivers ever, but like too big of a body, too many injuries. Russell Gage, like Leonard Fournette, like they all just have to stay healthy, and they need their O-line to kind of mesh. And like, I know it's kind of they lost Alex Kappa, their second string lineman got hurt. Tristan Wirfs got hurt. Like they're kind of just shoestringing that together. And if Brady doesn't have a great offensive line at this point, it's going to be tough for him. I mean, and no receivers. If he has all of his receivers, then like he can make decisions quickly and get it done. But when he's running with Cole Beasley off the street, Russell Gage banged up, and Rashad Perryman, it's tough for him to do things, and no offensive line to really protect him.
Yeah, it's looking at the weapons that he's sort of had for the game. Was looking back to his last year in New England, really, that his weapons were lacking, and obviously he was visibly frustrated with that at that time. So while we're talking about quarterbacks, something obviously we have to talk about is the events of last night's game between the Bengals and the Dolphins, and the hits and the tackle on Tua, which obviously led to the shocking images that we saw. So what was your opinion on the whole him having to taken out last Sunday because of the hit, being allowed to go back into the game, having to play this game only days later, and then this results in this? So what's your whole opinion on that?
So when he came back in after that hit on Sunday, I thought I had like 3 too many beers. Like I didn't think that I didn't think I was seeing the screen right, man. Like the way he got up from that original he fell, like he kind of got pushed, like it wasn't like a bad play, but like he fell and he hit his head real hard, got up and he just wobble legged right to the ground. Like that's just a real bad look for him coming back out in that game. Like whoever diagnosed that as a back injury is just kind of is silly. Like he clearly banged his head and then got up. The first thing he did was he went like this. He shook his head and tried to knock the cobwebs out of it because he just got his bell rung from the ground. So the fact that they had a game on Thursday and like he flew to Cincinnati. That's first off. Probably shouldn't do that with a concussion. Wasn't ruled a concussion, so they didn't have to go through percussion protocol. If you listen to the Mike McDaniel press conference today when they're talking about it, the dude he sounds like it's like he knows the jig's up. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, they got me, so I don't know what to say. So I'm just like quiet and like long pauses in between. I don't do that here. Try to formulate his next sentence after that. So I think it's just another Miami Dolphins kind of organizational issue right there. Like there's a problem with the owner. There's probably a problem with somewhere in that staff. I don't know if it's McDaniel, but like somewhere there's got to be somebody representing the player that's not the player. You know what I mean? Because you work your whole life to get into these games, and you only play 17 of them. It's not like baseball where you're like, oh, I could take a couple days off. It's not like basketball, load management. Hockey, you get time off in between. There's so many games. There's like, oh, I can miss a couple if I need to heal myself. Football, there's not. Like you only get so many games in a season, so many games in a career for that matter. And there's nobody telling these players that, hey man, like that might be the best thing to get you more games in this season, but like it might not be the best thing to get you more games in your career, or maybe even not play football again. We don't know the extent of that injury. Like I was saying to you before we got on, I've seen like UFC fights, boxing. We've all seen crazy stuff online. Incredible hits, giant tackles, head-to-head collisions. Never seen somebody's fingers do what he did like that. That was scary. Like I was generally concerned. So it stinks. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, they put it down on the Sunday game due to back injury, which we all know has nothing to do with that, which obviously got him out of the concussion protocol and not having to do all that. But it's where does the blame truly lie now, and who is going to be held to account for it? So is it the player? Is it the coaches? Is it medical staff? Is it the NFL who constantly preach about player safety, yet they still know he was allowed to play? Maybe that wasn't reviewed deeply. Obviously, they did a review and they deemed that everything was followed as it was supposed to. But, when the NFL is preaching so much about player safety and then this happens, it's the worst thing that could have possibly happened, because it's just brought back to light the whole concussion issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's terrible for Tua. It's terrible for his family watching. Like his mom and dad were there. And I mean, I'm no fan of the Dolphins, but like you just hate to see that. Like in general, as a sports fan, it's a tough game. You never expect that to happen, and sometimes it does, and it's just real scary to think about. He definitely shouldn't have played in that game. Like he would have had 10 days to kind of heal and reevaluate himself and get another checkup. And again, I just wish there was another fail safe for the players, not for the team, because I mean, no one on the team is. I mean, I'm not saying they're not looking out for them, but like their main goal is to try and get them back on the field. And it should really just be like what's best for this player. So we're trying to make rules towards that, and it seems like they're not getting to the bottom of it just yet. It wasn't a dirty play. You know what I mean? Like the play was fine. Like the concussion happened randomly. There's nothing on the play that you could do to stop that. It's what you do after the concussion that you need to like, or any sort of play like that, whether it's ruled a concussion or not. You know, so that's kind of my thoughts on that. Really stinks. I mean, he was having a great season so far. So hope he's all right. Hope he can, come back. Hopefully the season healthy and fully ready to go.
Yeah, and we absolutely wish him well, and we're hoping that he does get a speedy recovery, and we do hope to see him again this season. And that's obviously coming from Patriots fans as well. So we know we do, and obviously our thoughts obviously with his family and everyone having to see that. And again, yeah, we do wish him well and hope he's back soon. So talking about this season in terms of the larger NFL, who are your Super Bowl contenders this season from the AFC and the NFC?
So before the season started, I'm going to give you what I picked. It was Bills Bucks. Now that we're 3 weeks into the season and everybody's overreacting, I'm still going to pick the Bills. I think that, Josh Allen's Josh Allen. Man, it sucks to say this, but I love watching that dude play football. It's electric. It's fun to watch. He's like a linebacker running around playing quarterback. So I think it's going to be the Bills. They finally break through. I think it's going to be the Eagles too. I think the two Russian quarterbacks, they have two dominant wide receivers apiece. Both have extremely good deep defenses, good coaching staffs, continuity, solid run games to lean on when they need to. Both quarterbacks, like I said, can run. They're explosive playmakers. Yeah, they just look like the two clear best teams right now to me. One little dark horse though that like probably makes the playoffs. I don't know if they make noise though. It's the Jaguars. Been playing excellent this year. I think they could probably cover this week. I think it's a +7 for them. So yeah, I like Jacksonville, Doug Peterson. A little revenge game against the Eagles going back to Philly. So it's a fun one to watch. What do you think of your the game going to London? I can't wait. I'm very excited to wake up at still 6:00, but only wait 3 hours for football instead of like whatever it is, 7.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up to ask you actually from obviously an American's perspective. Obviously, it's fantastic for the UK fans and for European fans that can obviously get across. And obviously, this year we've also got the Germany game in Munich between the Buccaneers and the Seahawks as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it is fantastic from our perspective. And now that the Packers are coming over this year, we've completed all 32 teams now as well.
Awesome.
So every fan has had the opportunity to see their team in London. But from obviously America's perspective, how do you feel about, first of all, there being the games across and teams having to give up a home game, and also now that they've moved the games earlier, so we've got morning games over obviously in your time. How do you feel about that as well?
Like I said to ask you, I'm thrilled every time there's a 9:30 game. Like that's just way less time in between me and my football Sunday. You know what I mean? Like that game will lead right into game day morning, like almost right half of it, so I can like kind of like maybe eat a little bit more and then get on with the rest of the day. So I love the UK game. As long as I'm fully prepared for it, if I forget about it somehow, then I kind of get sad. But as far as my team losing a home game, we haven't had a London game in quite a long time, so I don't quite remember the feeling for it. If it were to, I imagine it'll happen in the future. I don't hate it because like you're a Pats fan, you should get to see the Pats as much as I should. You know what I mean? So if they're expanding out there and everything's kind of like everything's cool, I don't see any issue with it as long as they like travel a couple of days beforehand so they get acclimated to the time shift and like everything, just being in a new environment for some people who have on the team who haven't gone. It's kind of getting like acclimated and ready to play. So that would probably be the only thing there. I kind of like the Vikings this week. No Jameis Winston, no Michael Thomas. I hope Alvin Kamara has a good game for fantasy purposes, but kind of like the Vikings. They just seem a little bit more whole right now.
Yeah, and in terms of the Patriots coming across, I've seen them twice. The two times that they have come across, and they've won. They've won both games. Big scores as well against Buccaneers and against the Rams. Back then, I think they did a branding deal. I think the Patriots, I think it was with Germany, because I know that they've sort of done like branding deals with different European countries. But the Patriots weren't the UK. I think it was Germany. So I think they might end up perhaps playing next year's game in Munich, perhaps, rather than coming over to the UK. Well, that'd be money dependent. I mean, it's the same for you, for example. Have you been across to London before to watch a game?
I have not been across to London before. The only other country I've been to is South America, or no, Panama. So
yeah. So that's it's down to money and things like that. I mean, I'd love to obviously go and watch them if they're in the UK, definitely. If they're in Europe, it's a bit more difficult. But but just getting an opportunity to see a live game. Obviously, I haven't been across to America. I will hope to do that at some point, because I'd like to experience the whole atmosphere and the tailgate and everything from Americans' perspective. Because as much as we try and replicate it over here, I've been told many times from people that I've spoken to, it's nothing like when you are actually over and watching any game, not even if it's not a Patriots game, watching any home crowd and watching a game over in America is an experience like none other.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to the UK and watch some soccer or football. That I've been trying to get into soccer a lot lately. It hasn't always been like my thing, it's something kind of tougher to pick up here because the talent isn't as good in the MLS as it is, across the pond. So, I definitely would. That's definitely on my bucket list as well. We're going to see a soccer game, in the UK. That'd be great. Just going to travel to that side of the world as well. I haven't been over there, so it's definitely, like I said, on my bucket list.
And it'd be great because obviously in the Qatar World Cup, England and USA have been drawn in the same group as well. So that'll be something to look forward to as well.
Yeah, if they get past the I don't know if they're matched up in the first one. I think they play. I don't know who they play first, but I feel like England's going to be the team that's waiting at the end. You know what I mean? In their little group there. I'm still trying to figure out how that all works. So don't quote me on what I say on soccer. You quote me on anything I say on the NFL though. But
that's great. And so obviously talking about obviously we've been absolutely great to have you on the show and to talk to you about all things Patriots, the NFL, and things that are going on there. So I just want to obviously give you an opportunity to talk about something that you want to plug or introduce to people that are watching.
So you can check out Stadium Rant's podcast network. We have I think 15 team sites for the NFL going, and then we have a fantasy site, a fantasy podcast, and just a general, NFL bets, fantasy advice, all sorts of news podcast, and the Fastest 40. And you can find that on Spotify, on NFL on Stadium Rant podcast network. You can find that there. You can follow Stadium Rant at Stadium Rant HQ. You can follow our other site. It's new. It's called Fan Rant HQ. That's where all of our team site content's going to go for the NFL. And like I said earlier, the feature writers and the front page, that's going to all be on stadiumrant.com. So if you want to check out NBA, MLB, combat sports, soccer, college sports, all that stuff's on the front page. If you want to check out your team for the NFL, that's on fanranthq.com. You can also follow at Gillette Gazette on Twitter. Definitely go check out the Patriots articles on GilletteGazette.com. What else? There's one more. I know I'm missing something. Oh, yeah, obviously, my job. Definitely, if you want to come apply and join Stadium Rant, go to stadiumrantjobs.com. We have openings as managing editors. We have openings as contributing writers. Both of those would be for team sites. Requirements vary between the two. Similar. The editor position is a little bit more than the writer position, obviously, and then the featured writer position is slightly more than both of those. But we have openings across all of them. Like I said, we have a podcast division. So if you get in, you like writing the articles and you want to expand from written content to audio video content, like I said, I got promoted a bunch of times because I worked hard. If you work hard, you'll probably get promoted too. Now it's by me. I do the promoting. So, or partially, with a team. So, it's fan content created by fans for fans. So that's what we're all about. We're trying to connect with all types of sports fans. If you have a voice in your heart and you're ready to write it out, get out there to the world, go apply, like I said, at stadiumrantjobs.com.
That's excellent. So just make sure that you do, if you obviously interested in writing, podcasting, obviously contact Tyler at Lamb4752 on Twitter or visit Stadium Rant HQ. Okay, just make sure that you do that because there's lots of opportunities there for you. Just a quick question for you, Ty, before we do finish then. From Andy, have you interviewed any big Patriot stars through your Stadium Rants or anything that you've done journalistically wise?
So not yet. I know that one of my writers is kind of working on an angle of that right now. I did apply for press passes, but since COVID's going on, still kind of lingering, they're limiting the number of press passes that they're giving out. They said with the credentials I had when I originally applied that they would probably be giving me one if I apply next year. So that we'll just kind of have to wait for that to be lifted. We're hoping so, though. Things are in the works. We're always trying to get that next big scoop and next big interview. But like I said, we're all fans here right now. So I'm just like you. Just you could be just like me if you come apply. So could be you talking to the next big Patriot star, Andy.
That'd be great. And obviously, if you do obviously get that opportunity, just make sure you come back and let us know.
Absolutely, I would.
And yes, and also, Ty seems so cool. Ask him to come back on when Mac leads us to the playoffs. So if we do get Mac back, hopefully next week, if it's not as bad as, and they have covered it up and it's not as bad as it first seemed, and he just leads us to the playoffs, then you've been demanded to come back.
That would be fantastic. I hope that's not the only time I get to come back.
Yeah. No, hopefully not. And as I say, hopefully the next time we speak, hopefully the Patriots in a more positive position on the field and the record's looking a bit better as well.
Absolutely. If you want to come on the Gillette Gazette podcast too, just let me know. I can have that. I can definitely hook you up with them, and we can have a great show too with that.
Yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. And thank you again so much for coming on. And again, make sure you follow Tyler at Lamb4752. And also make sure you do subscribe to NFL UK Ops on YouTube. We produce daily shorts, and we've got our next daily Sunday show going out this Sunday, 1 p.m. British Summer Time, which is 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you very much for everybody that has watched the show today. See you later.
Thanks for having me on, man.
No, thank you so much.